Did the Red Hulk ever lift Thor's hammer? And I guess he was.
Now we're crossing the streams. We're crossing the streams.
And you can't cross streams. It's just don't cross the streams. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And you're listening to the Data Over Dogma podcast, where we increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion, because why not? And we combat the spread of misinformation about the same, because we all know why. How are things today, Dan?
Things are great. Today's going to be fun. We're going cinematic on this one.
Yes.
We are taking a trip down Indiana way. We're going to go down the Indiana Jones Trail, if you will.
Well, that was the name of the dog, not the road that he grew up on. Right? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
We're going to start, as one does on one's Indiana Jones special, with the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant. Yeah.
We will not be doing any raiding. Per se, but we will.
That would be unethical of us, as Indiana Jones was frequently.
Yeah, he wasn't tremendously concerned about ethics, unless he was, and then it was like, why are you even bothering with that? And then at the for our second thing, we're gonna do the Grail, the Holy Grail, a Grail.
A Grail. We're gonna skip right over the middle one, the one that my wife hates, but I was like, why did we pay for the 3-movie set if you refuse to have that movie on in this house?
There's no Temples of Doom in the Bible. We're going to unrelated. And
we're going to Nom Shibai right by that one.
And if we have time at the end, we'll talk about a crystal skull. We'll see. But for now, let's dive in with the Ark of the Covenant. All right, so we've all heard of the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes,
it is a very famous thing, but what the heck is it? It seems it's funny because it is very much in pop culture, not just in Indiana Jones movies, but in other things. Mm-hmm. We all know that it is now resting comfortably in a U.S. government warehouse.
Yes. And it's evidently magnetic or something. I don't know. Burns holes and stuff. But what's funny is the Bible has 2 arks. And people and the word, and this is 2 different Hebrew words. Like, they're not the same word, but
really?
They get translated as ark.
Okay, so one is a giant boat, an enormous, implausibly,
yes, me fail English.
Large boat.
Yes.
Me fail English. And then the other is a box.
Yes, and they're both kind of box-ish. Like the Hebrew word for Noah's Ark is a chest, a casket, something like that. And the Hebrew word for the Ark of the Covenant, Aron, is a same thing. It just means a box.
Okay.
And this Hebrew word is used in places to refer to the sarcophagus into which Joseph's corpse was placed in Genesis. Okay. Jehoiada placed an Aron next to the altar for the collection of money for the temple. We have a few different uses of this. And then we also have the phrase, we have several phrases. There's several titles for this thing. We have Ark of the Testimony in Exodus 25. We have Ark of the Covenant in Joshua 3:6. Ark of Adonai in Joshua 3, Ark of the God, 1 Samuel 3. So it's got a bunch of different names, but
these are all referring to the Ark of the Covenant, to the same Ark,
as far as we know. Yeah,
to the same box.
Yes.
And let me ask you this: if you were translating this, because no one says Ark in any context other than the biblical context.
Yeah.
So if you were translating this, would you be tempted to use the word box? The box of the Covenant. I don't know. Well, you got to come up with something other than Ark.
Yeah, I wonder if what the Common English Bible uses there, because that's intended for like folks who are like where English is a second language or something like that. Okay. It's intended for folks who don't understand it on as high a level.
Right.
So at some point I'm going to have to look up and see what they call Jan Bach's
the chest of the covenant.
They do say chest.
Oh,
right
okay.
There. Yeah, the soles of the priest's feet who are carrying the chest of the Lord,
okay,
ruler of the whole earth. So chest also works, and this is all describing the same thing. It's a box.
It's a box. It's a box, and it is a box that is described in Exodus. So before we get to stories about the box, maybe I'll just go through quickly and describe this thing. It is made. So apparently, it is. In Exodus 25, we have how God is commanding this should be made. And it's made of acacia wood, but I don't want to call it acacia wood. I want to call it what the King James Version calls it, which is, I've forgotten. Hang on. I'm going to click over to King James because
shittim?
Shittim wood.
Shittim wood, yes.
That is my favorite thing in the world. Okay. Because I'm not saying anything dirty, I promise. It's just that's what the ark is made of. It's made of shittim wood. And like the other ark, we have measurements in cubits. So 2 cubits and a half is the length, and a cubit and a half is the width, and a cubit and a half is the height. So a nice rectangular box.
Yeah, and there are a few different ways to measure what a cubit is. So it's not exactly clear what the exact dimensions are of this box, but it is something that is made of wood, but then covered, overlaid with precious metals, gold and the like. Which, go ahead.
Well, we were talking last week about the letter of Jeremiah. Is that who it was that we were talking about? And how he mocked the gods of the Babylonians because they were just wood with gold overlaid over them. And then this week I come here and I read all about this thing that is basically
constructed of wood and overlaid.
Their god that is constructed of wood with gold and silver overlaid over it. And I was like, come on, you guys. This seems to be the thing that you do.
Yeah, this is a little on the nose. And you know what? There is so much more to it than that, because there are a bunch of ways that the Ark of the Covenant is functioning in form and function. It is a divine image.
Right.
And this is something that scholars have noted for a long time. For instance, we have, and I think there's a little nuance to it, but for instance, you have things that are being placed before Adonai, Lifnei Adonai, or it is set before the testimony, which would be what the Ark of the Covenant is carrying. So if you can imagine this box up there on a pedestal or something like that, and somebody comes and bows down and places an offering in front of the box.
Right.
It's like, this is the vibes here are, it's giving divine image, is what my 13-year-old would say. She would say, look, chat, it's giving divine image.
Yeah.
And she will not stop addressing the chat in our living room when no one else is around. I don't understand this slang, but
it's fine. It's fine. Young people have their own thing.
Yeah, this closely parallels conventions from ancient West Asia, where treaties and things like that are placed at the feet of or before the divine image.
Right.
And so you have some places in the Hebrew Bible where it says they place these things in the ark, and then you have other places where it says they put things before the ark. And one scholar has argued this is probably a diachronic change, where initially it was replacing things before the ark, which is using the ark as a divine image, and later on they were like, what if we said they put it in the ark? Then it sounds less like a divine image.
Well, so, we're going to get to we know what happens when you open the ark. Your face melts
you get
off,
hemorrhoids.
So.
Well, hemorrhoids
that's
first,
right. We talked about the hemorrhoids.
It progresses to the face melting.
Eventually, if you're a Nazi, your face is going to melt off. That's just how that's going to work. But yeah, and we're going to get to more ways in which this is seen as a divine image when we get to 1 Samuel. But we're still in Exodus right now because I want to describe the rest of it.
Okay.
So we've got a wooden box made of shittim, and then we've got gold and silver overlaid over it. Oh no, is it just gold? It may just be gold. Yes, pure gold, inside and outside. You shall overlay it. Mm-hmm. You shall make a molding of gold upon it all around. Mm-hmm. And then you got 4 rings of gold that you can put 2 sticks through that for holding it. Right. So that's good. That you got a way to transport it. That's always useful.
Yep, got to be mobile.
And then you got a lid, and the lid or the cover is also pure gold with and I don't know why it feels like it has to specify the length and width of that. Just make it the same as the box. But it does. It says the same as the box. Yes. And then 2 cherubim of gold, which everyone interprets to be angels, but whatever cherubim are.
Yeah.
Like
not angels. There's no part of the Bible that calls them angels.
So but like divine critters of some sort.
And these critters are I think comparable to the Lamassu from Babylon. So they're like guardian hybrid creatures that have wings, but they have the body of a horse, and they have the head of an eagle or a lion or something like that. Within the Bible, they seem to have more humanoid heads. And here's something interesting. There was a what's called a closed shrine model, which is a little miniature shrine, and closed because it's enclosed. It's not an open model that was discovered at Megiddo in Israel, and it's very, very old. It's very fragmentary, but it is a box that you would have put stuff in, and it has what look like cherubim at the corners of this box. But it clearly was not intended to hide stuff, because it has windows in it that you're supposed to be able to see through. And a shrine model was basically a way to miniaturize the temple.
Yeah.
And then you would put miniature divine images on the inside. And we found
I was really hoping you were going to say you put miniature people inside, and then you make them go, "Oh, I'm at the temple." Oh, me too. I'm also at the temple.
That's in Egypt. It's in Egypt where you have the burials where there are hundreds of little miniature people, and this is supposed to this replaced the subsidiary burials. So if you were in really early Egypt and you were like one of the pharaoh's assistants, you really didn't want the pharaoh to die.
Because you had to go with him?
You had to go with him.
Oh.
Yep. Everybody went with him, and you did not, It was unpleasant. After a while, they were like, this is really inconvenient.
Yeah.
And kind of ruins things for the next guy. So then they started making these models. And so you had models of the person who made the bread. You had models of the people who were the scribes. You had models of, the people who made the bricks.
Yeah.
And then they were kind of reified as these souls in the afterlife for the pharaoh, instead of, dispatching your entire administration.
You've got the heir to the throne going, I really like Dad's bread maker. I would like to keep that guy if I can. You know what? Make a model. Make a model of that guy. We'll just throw that in there.
Yeah, just put the blanket over him. He's like, that doesn't look like the real one. That's the real one. It's the real one.
It's him. Just trust.
He's not moving. He's already dead.
Just trust.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got a box with gold. We've got cherubs on either end facing each other, with their wings over covering the box itself.
Yeah, and the idea here is do not touch.
Right.
So these are the protective entities that are kind of guarding the entry to what I think is probably supposed to be a shrine model. In other words, a miniature version of the temple.
And it does say, like, verse 22 says, "There I will meet with you, and from above the cover, from between the 2 cherubim, that are on the Ark of the Covenant, I will tell you all that I am commanding you for the Israelites.
Yeah. So one thing
is there going to be a little God that's like right in the middle? It's like talking to you, like his mouth appears.
The Lord.
Pay no attention to the guy behind the curtain, sort of thing.
No, I think one thing to note is this part of Exodus is being written much later. In fact, the Ark probably didn't exist anymore.
Oh, right.
When that part of Exodus was written, they're kind of like, make it gold, make it this length, give it poles. Remember, it has to have poles, and so this is they're probably reconstructing what they wanted the Ark to be. And they have the sense that this is supposed to be reifying God's presence, and so they kind of describe it more as a throne, like God is enthroned between the cherubim. That's one way that the language there is commonly interpreted, and so that's why they call the lid the mercy seat. It's the seat of the throne on which God is sitting, although not really.
That is really hard to like. All I can do is picture this tiny little God that's just like, ha ha! I will give you commands.
Well,
I don't think that's what's intended.
No, but if you look at there's an ivory plaque that is also from, I believe it was found in Megiddo, but it's the motifs are all Egyptian, but there's a ruler sitting on a throne, and the armrests are cherubim. Okay. And so, like, the idea of cherubim flanking a throne on which the ruler sits is something that was in circulation back then. And so I think we've got this imagery is kind of coming together, and they're like, well, let's make it seem like the throne. I think in earlier time periods, it was probably more like, this is the miniature temple that we can cart around so that our deity, whose presence is inside the temple, can go with us where we need to go.
Since you mentioned that,
yes,
let's jump ahead to Joshua and talk a little bit about Jericho, because this is one of the places that we know the Ark plays a big role. Mm-hmm. Because they march the Ark around the city, and they march the Ark through the river and all of this stuff, which I find to be really interesting. It becomes this
it's a war palladium.
Yeah.
Kind of. It is their banner. It is what they kind of rally around, because it represents the presence of God. And that's what makes the waters of the Jordan River stop. That's what allows them to march across. This is God's presence. The waters are all going to stop. And then
it's a pretty solid trick right there.
Yeah, it's hard to duplicate. Penn and Teller would have no chance figuring out what's going on there. But and then they march it around the city 7 times, and then blow the trumpets, and legend tells that the walls came a-tumbling down.
Yeah.
And that's the presence of God there doing the miracles for them. So fighting the battles for them.
It definitely is a magic box. Like, this is not this box. It in and of itself has, I mean, it is imbued with God's power.
Yeah,
in some very strong way.
There's I don't know if you look these verses up, but if you go to Numbers 10, did you happen to look at Numbers 10?
Oh, no, I don't have Numbers 10. That's not one that I've got.
So verses 35 and 36, they're talking about the cloud during the day and the fire during the night and all this. And then it says, whenever the ark set out, Moses would say, "Arise, Adonai, enemies be scattered and your foes flee before you." And whenever it came to rest, he would say, "Return, Adonai, thousands of Israel." And so the movement of the ark represented the movement of God. And where the ark was, God was. And so, this is manifesting the presence of God.
He's saying God to this box.
we don't have any stage direction here. We don't know exactly what direction he's pointed, but yeah, it seems to be, if he is not speaking to the ark as if it is Adonai, he is speaking about the movement of the ark as if it is Adonai's movement. So they're very closely entangled, and I think that makes the story of the ark narrative that much more significant. And this is, unless you wanted to stay in Joshua for a little bit longer.
No, I'm fine. I'm okay. Eventually we got to get to Samuel anyway. So I'm not in any, we don't have to stick around because we've talked about the story of Joshua. And I just think it's interesting how they use it because, in the Joshua story, it's basically all of the Israelites. Is that right? They're traveling together. Mm-hmm. And then they'll pitch a tent and make a sort of makeshift temple and put the ark in the middle of it.
Yeah, the tabernacle is the traveling temple that they have, and then they have camps that are supposed to be on all four sides.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you see anybody say that the camp when it's laid out in the wilderness looks like a cross, that's totally made up. It does not look like a cross.
If it's on all four sides, Dan, I don't know what it looks like. An X? Come on, man. What are you trying to do?
Oh, gosh. So they're traveling around, and the tabernacle with the ark in the Holy of Holies, that's representative of God's presence. And by the way, I think, and this is just a little aside, they talk about the fire at night, the pillar of fire at night, and the cloud during the day that followed Israel around.
Mm-hmm.
What I think this is doing is using the temple imagery, because the idea is that signified God's presence. But let's say you've got a temple that's operating day and night. You've got sacrifices being burnt and everything like that. During the day, what's going to be hovering over the top of that space? A bunch of smoke. A big cloud. What is it going to look like at night when they've got all these fires going? And it's going to light all of that up. It's going to look like, like there's some kind of concert or football game going on there, and it's going to be.
It's Burning Man. It's
going to be comparable to fire. So I think these stories are supposed to make people think, oh, that's like what I see when I look at the temple. And there's a cloud over it during the day, and it looks all fiery at night. So that must mean that God's presence is there at the temple. I think, personally, I think that's what those stories, that imagery is supposed to be communicating to an audience that is operating much later down the road.
Right.
But anyway, yes, you've got all Israel walking along.
Let's scurry on to the story of, because in Joshua, we've got the ark operating as a sort of a powerful instrument of war, because they go and they defeat things. Mm-hmm. What happens if the ark runs out of war juice? And we get to 1 Samuel when the Philistines come in to make war.
So we've got this situation, and there are a couple of storylines that are converging here, because you got Eli, who's the high priest, but his sons are kind of worthless, and they're not doing a great job at the temple. But in 1 Samuel 4:1, word of Samuel came to all Israel. In those days, the Philistines mustered for war against Israel, and Israel went out to battle against them. They encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. And they dropped lines. The battle was joined. Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the field of battle. The elders of Israel go, "Why has the Lord put us to rout today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord here from Shiloh, so that he may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies." So, we've got the story of Jericho. We know this is like a war palladium. This is supposed to be God's presence among the people, and God will fight our battles for us. So let's go get the ark and just bring it next time we go to battle.
Yeah.
And then bang, boom.
It's a pretty effective tool at the beginning.
Yes.
Because the Philistines They look at it and they are terrified.
Yes, they heard. There's a big shout when somebody shows up. We got the ark, and they bring it out before the army, and everybody's shouting huzzah. And then the Philistines hear the noise of the shouting. They said, "What does this great shouting in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" When they learned that the ark of the covenant or the ark of the Lord had come to the camp, the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "Gods have come into the camp."
Yeah.
And so the Philistines at least understand this thing to be functioning as the divine image, which bears the presence of the deity. And so they're like, "Oh crap, God's with them."
They understand it to be multiple deities.
They
multiple
understand.
times they say gods.
Yes, in the plural.
Woe to us, who can deliver us from the power of these mighty gods?
Yes, and then they sing the praises of this God. These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with every sort of plague in the wilderness. Doing the work of the narrator for him, so he doesn't have to boast about his own people. Yes.
Is there any chance that the author of 1 Samuel actually had the idea that, like, I get that it's easy to just say that this was from the Philistines' mouths, and so they didn't understand that it was not multiple gods. But is there any chance actually that at one point they were thinking that it encapsulated multiple gods?
There is certainly a possibility, and there are a few different theories that bear on that question, because there's stuff that's going into the ark. The ark is containing things, and we all know about the tablets of the law. And here's something interesting. The tablets of the law are basically two little mini standing stones with the law written on them.
Right.
And we already have stories with Moses and Joshua where God says, set up standing stones, write the law on them, and then worship. And so those are divine images, and the law is being written on them. And if the ark is a shrine model, it's a miniature temple. What do you put in the miniature temple? Miniature divine images. What's a miniature standing stone with the law written on it? Couple of little tablets with the law written on it. So this is like mini divine images going into the model of the temple. And then we also have Aaron's rod that is supposed to have budded. Mm-hmm. And there's a scholar named Rana Eichler who published a paper arguing that it's possible this story is intended to obscure the fact that an Asherah pole would have been in the Ark of the Covenant. In other words, another deity's divine image.
That's what I was wondering.
Was in the Ark.
The gods that have shown up are the Tetragrammaton and Asherah.
Yeah. So that the timeline and everything is very, very muddled because these stories are being written down long after any such historical event could have taken place, but maybe reflect some kind of hazy social memory about what actually happened. But yeah, certainly it's within the realm of plausibility that the ark would have been the miniature temple for the many divine images of more than one deity. So
I mean, certainly the author of this First Samuel doesn't rebuke this idea that there are gods.
Well,
contained.
No, but and I think that by the time this is being written, they're probably representing the Philistines as just pagans who don't know what's really going on. That's another way to read what's going on here.
Absolutely, and that makes sense too. But it doesn't seem like anyone's fighting this idea. Anyway,
no. But here's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
They bring out the ark, they cheer, they give each other the slaps on the butt as they're rounding third, and then they lose the battle.
Right.
And there was a very great slaughter. 30,000 foot soldiers fell of Israel. The ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. And so there's a scholar named Ben Summer, a wonderful scholar. I spent almost 2 weeks. I spent a week with him in Italy 2 months ago at a conference.
Would you call that your Ben Summer? The summer of Ben? Anyway, sorry.
It
Go
was
on.
the summer of my discontent because there was a heat wave going on in Italy, and
Right.
it was in the high 90s, low 100s. It was awful. But anyway, he published a very influential book called The Bodies of God in the World of Ancient Israel. And his theory is that this story is intended to be a rebuking of the idea that the ark actually contained the divine presence because they lose.
Right.
So his theory is the author is going, and then they lose because it was never God's presence. It never housed God's presence. It was not a divine image.
Tell that to Joshua, man.
Now, in my book, I actually disagree with Ben. And I argue that this is not about the ark not actually being a divine image. It is about the unauthorized use of the ark. Because every other time that the ark represents God's presence and facilitates military victory, it is because the prophet went and inquired of God and said, do we do this thing? And God says, I give you my blessing. And yeah, thumbs up.
God gives it the old thumbs up. Okay,
yeah.
you can do it.
And we have absolutely no hint of that here.
Right.
And so in our last episode, we talked about how the deity will abandon the divine image when it needs to.
Right.
If the people are doing things wrong and everything. So
or at very least that's the way you
you rationalize. Yes.
When you lose and you're supposed to have won because your God was supposed to fix it for you.
Right. That's the retconning that goes on. And so I argue that this is actually, it understands the Ark of the Covenant as a divine image, but they didn't get Adonai's permission to go up against the Philistines to battle. And so Adonai was like, you're on your own. Sorry. I'm abandoning my ark for the time being.
Yeah.
And then the Philistines take it back, and they do what you do with a captured divine image. They put it in their temple.
Yeah.
Next to their own divine image of their deity, and the text represents their deity as Dagon, but that wasn't a Philistine deity. And then
there you go.
Then we have the battle of the divine images, where the next day they show up at the temple. They, come in and go, "Let's get you some breakfast, Dagon." Oh, you're on the ground,
which just means that like their rock tipped over, right?
yeah, basically. And then they set Dagon back up. They dust him off. They rub the dust off of the gold.
Yeah.
As
polish
the letter
him
of
up a little bit.
Yeah, as the letter of Jeremiah mocked. And then the day after that, they come in and oh no, his hands and his head are cut off. And so it's basically the battle of the divine images, and obviously Adonai wins even in another deity's territory.
Yeah, in another deity's temple, no less.
Yes. So not just they come into our house. They're going to come into our house and beat us. Yes, Adonai is going to do that. And so I think this is the story is where Adonai is like, ooh, wait till they get a load of me. They've abandoned the divine image, and now it's in the temple, and Adonai is like, zoop, right back in there, and then defeats Dagon. And then, as we discussed previously, afflicts the Philistines with awful hemorrhoids.
Yes.
And certainly UTIs were a part of it. I have no doubt that there was a lot of cranberry juice being passed back and forth after all the things in the undercarriage were out of sorts. But
sorely afflicted, as you might say.
Sorely afflicted, yeah. As the great poet once said.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a story about the ark being abandoned by God re-entering the ark in order to show forth signs and wonders, and tickle the Philistines' perineum, as it is correctly pronounced, or what was
perineum? It's taint.
Or your taint. There we go.
Taint.
And then
that's 2 episodes in a row I get to say taint. I'm happy.
Yes. And then the Philistines put it in a cart attached to some cows and go, yeah, and and the cows march off to Israel and walk right up to Beit Shemesh. And the people go, what's that? And they look in the ark, and that's when we get the face melter, according to the story. So, yeah, dangerous box. This box.
Yeah, it's not just any old box.
No. But then we have you got to skip over the rest of 1 Samuel and get to 2 Samuel 6. And what happens is Beit Shemesh is like, get this out of here. We don't want this around here. And it goes to another city. And there's a guy there who is like, I'll watch your ark for you. And, and I imagine that, now I'm dang it, I've forgotten the actor's name. In the Italian Job, who was Handsome Dan?
Or
Handsome Rob? Was it Handsome Dan or Handsome Rob?
I mean, we're Handsome Dan,
right?
So it must have been Rob.
Well, yeah, but Seth Green is like, I'm Handsome Dan. Gosh,
Yes.
I forget his name. That's who I imagine saying that. I'll watch your ark for you. And then David comes and brings it to Jerusalem. So the ark is not in Jerusalem until 2 Samuel 6, when David is like, "Where's the? Why don't we? Let's bring the ark. Let's bring the ark to Jerusalem."
Yeah.
And so goes and takes the ark from the house of this fella who's watching after it.
Played by Jason Statham.
Why can't I'm awful with names? This is why I didn't. Make
I had
it
to
on
Google
Jeopardy.
it.
Okay.
I knew exactly who you were talking about, and I also couldn't think of his name. So
I used to shave my hair pretty low. I used to get a lot of Jason Statham from folks, and on TikTok it's all Woody Harrelson. So,
yeah, okay.
But yeah, so this is the story of how the ark comes into Jerusalem during the time period of David. Even though it was lost long before and has run a rocky path to get back to Jerusalem. And this is it's called the Ark of God, and this is where Uzzah. It's on the way to Jerusalem, and the cart that it is on is rocked, and Uzzah is like, "Whoa!" and reaches out to steady it, and he gets zapped. And then
so mean. He's just trying to help.
Yeah, and the worst part of it was that then results in the phrase "steadying the ark," which bad faith people use to try to tell people you're not allowed to correct ecclesiastical leadership because that's steadying the ark, and you might get zapped.
You'll get zapped.
Yeah.
All right.
So don't do that.
I think that does it for the first Indiana Jones movie. That's a fascinating thing. So far, we have no evidence that any Nazis actually came anywhere near this thing.
Wasn't buried in Egypt, not in the right place or the wrong place they were digging. Certainly,
that we know about.
Yeah, certainly not in a warehouse in D.C. And who knows, maybe that's what the folks taking over D.C. are on the hunt for.
Right, yes, exactly.
This is all a cover to go find the Ark. So somebody can take over the world.
But speaking of being on the hunt, there is no greater, more hunted thing than our next segment, The Grail.
The Grail.
So, okay. If you are looking for the biblical references to the Holy Grail, Dan, what book in the Bible should we turn to find the reference to the Holy Grail?
You should not waste your time because it's not there. You are better off looking in the Da Vinci Code because there is no reference to the Grail. The Grail grows out of traditions associated with the Last Supper, where Jesus has the Passover meal with his followers.
Can I say that I was genuinely shocked when I started researching this and discovered that it is
not in the Bible,
a biblical thing. I was like, come on, there's got to be something about a cup or something. But alas, it. So where did this crop up? Like where are we getting this from?
So I think the roots of it. You don't have discussion of a Grail, but in the Gospel of Nicodemus, which is a 4th century text, and was Nicodemus the owl from Sword in the Stone?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Dang it. My daughters would
let's say yes.
My daughters would be so disappointed in me. But this is a 4th century text, this apocryphal gospel, and it talks about vessels that are associated with Christ's passion. So the last week of Christ's life. So this is probably the seeds that sprout in the 12th and 13th centuries in Europe with these French texts that are like openly fictional novels.
They're just stories.
They're just stories, but they
rather, aren't they? They're like heroic poems.
Yeah, and some of them. One of them is about Joseph of Arimathea, and another one is about Percival, the Count of Graal, and they talk about this mysterious radiant vessel that is some kind of relic that becomes associated with the cup of the Last Supper, and it has mystical and magical powers in these stories. And then it becomes part of Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny because I mentioned to you as we were prepping for the show that I did look. I'm not familiar with the legends of King Arthur. I didn't read any of those things, but I kind of thought that like maybe the Monty Python guys just kind of came up with that on their own and thought it would be an interesting thing to do. But no, very much that is what the legend of King Arthur centers around, sort of.
Yes, it is. It is central to like I think Galahad was one of the purer knights. This was the one who had to turn away all of the nuns.
Yes, so
yes,
Galahad
he had to be
pure.
Yes, had to be saved from temptation.
Let me have some of the peril.
I think around 1225, you have a text, the quest of the Holy Grail, which is associated with this, and then it becomes associated with chivalry, with questing, with all of this kind of stuff, with all of the legendary kind of medieval European motifs that that get recycled all the time these days into things like Shrek and Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail and all that kind of stuff. So,
but the idea is that there's this vessel, and it had a
pestle.
It had the brew.
Maybe it had a brew in it. Yeah, who knows? Who's to say?
But it was the one that Christ drank out of at the Last Supper, and then maybe also Joseph of Arimathea caught his blood in it.
Yes, that is the other part of the tradition, that he was like, oh, don't let that to go to waste, and
let's keep that.
But from the Renaissance to the Enlightenment, we have a bit of a retreat to the tradition. You don't really have a lot of people caring about the Grail. After all, this is, when people are getting all into rationalism and all the
silly rationalists.
Yeah, at least they weren't nihilists though. They did have a nice marmot, is what I heard. But and then in the 19th century, when you have this the Romantic era, and you have kind of a renewed antiquarian interests in medievalism, then you have these stories that bring the Grail back into focus, and then which leads to our modern interpretations and masterpieces like Monty Python's.
Or Dan Brown, as you mentioned earlier.
Dan Brown, which is 1,000 poxes on
He's just trying to entertain the people.
He's just trying to entertain, yeah. And I cannot blame Dan Brown, because like he told people this is totally fiction. Like there was a book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail,
right,
which was published back in 1982, which is full of these ridiculous conspiracy theories. And I think most people who read that are like, yeah, this isn't real. And that's what Dan Brown did, but then was like, I'm going to write a kick-ass book on this, and I'm going to make up a job called symbologist. But and even he was like, it was based on this book, and those are ridiculous conspiracy theories. That's all fiction, and my book's all fiction.
That conspiracy theory was, if I remember correctly, was just based on how the word San Grail in French, meaning Holy Grail, sounds a lot like Sang Real, which is like the bloodline, which sangre meaning blood and real. I mean, anyway, so like, I mean, if two words sound the same as two other words,
obviously there's
it wasn't a cup; it was a bloodline.
Yes,
and Jesus has relatives living in France.
Right,
Doy. Right. We all know, look, it's all that makes sense, people.
Yep. Married Mary Magdalene, had a daughter named Sarah. They ran away to France. They started up the Merovingian dynasty or something like that,
right?
And all of that stuff, and yeah, even today you've got TikTokers who are breathlessly telling you about the secrets that they kept from us, and they're just kind of blithely sharing ridiculous conspiracy theories published in books written by non-specialists. And when somebody says, this word looks an awful lot like this word, if you just squint at it a little bit and you ignore all this stuff over here, and then you just imagine these connections here, that's evidence that this entire conspiracy theory is true. It's the number of idiotic conspiracy theories that are born of that kind of amateur just parallelomania cannot be counted.
The thing that surprises me, having learned that not only is there no biblical precedent for this cup, but that it didn't even arise as a story until, the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
It surprises me that there are so many cathedrals that claim to have it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Literally, there's one in Seville, and there's one in somewhere in Italy, Genoa, I think. All of these, there are lots of places that have just claimed that they have this holy relic, and it's like, okay, but it's not a thing, though. What about that?
You can't let them know that. Then they're going to start asking questions about all the other relics, like the piece of the true cross, and that skull that's over there in the corner, and that finger bone over there, and somebody's foreskin.
Right.
We got a collection of foreskins in the back, and
we got a whole bag of them. Yeah. The holy prepuce.
Yes.
Is that what it is? Anyway.
Yeah, and that is this is an outcome of a lot of these things spreading during the medieval period, and I think that brings us to my beef with the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because Indy chose poorly.
Well, let me set the scene, and then you can explain why it's no good.
Yes,
for them as hain't seen it, there is a
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But you've had plenty of time.
Yes,
it ends with them finding this room full of mugs, full of chalices, your various and sundry, grails. And it's all about pick the one that is the real one, and then you dip it into the very musty water, and drink out of it, and then it'll help you survive or help you live forever or whatever. And the first guy does it. He picks the most lavishly, gold and bedazzled with jewels one, and he drinks it, and then he instantly grows old and dies. And so now it's Indy's turn. He has to pick the right one because his dad's dying out front. And he goes and chooses one. And it is, he looks at all these elaborate, beautiful things, and he sees one that's just a very simple thing made of wood. And he says, that's the cup of a carpenter.
Is it clearly made of wood? Is it just painted?
I always thought it was made of wood.
Yeah, I don't, because
Indiana. Anyway, the idea is that it is a simple thing and probably made I assumed it was made of wood.
It looks like it's supposed to have like plating of some kind around it. But so yeah, it was probably a wood interior that had some plating or something.
Or something.
Okay. Yes, or something.
So, why was this wrong?
Problem. Yes, because in the 1st century CE, this was a period when there were a lot of concerns for ritual purity. And while some people think that Jesus was like, we're doing away with all of that, he wasn't. And a good Jewish Passover dinner at the time would not have used a wooden or certainly not a clay cup or something like that. In this time period, this is a time period where uniquely we have a high concentration of stone dishes and vessels that were used, because the idea was that a clay or some other vessel like that, impurities can be transmitted to that and they stay with it, and then they impute those impurities into the things that they hold. And so for clay, the only way to dissipate it is to break the clay, to shatter it, and then the impurities go ooh, and rise into the sky, kind of like the Ed O'Neill's story about killing a man in the dead of winter, and
you lost me entirely, but that's okay. Somebody's laughing their butt off.
Yeah, from Wayne's World.
Okay.
But anyway, they would have had these like limestone carved vessels, plates, cups, bowls, things like that. And so I would have to watch the scene again to see if they had any stone cups there. I don't remember seeing any clearly stone cups, but that would have been what would have most likely been on the table at an early 1st century CE Jerusalem Passover dinner.
Okay.
It would not have been what Indy ultimately goes for. And
Take
also
that, Harrison Ford.
I doubt he was doing set design, but
no,
who knows?
Yeah. Well, there you go. A fun little way to end the show. Get your cups right. If you're ever asked to pick a holy relic that never actually existed, but you got to pick the correct one.
Yeah.
Go with stone every time.
And isn't that great that the end of this quest to find the divine, the guy's like, pick a suitcase. It might have $1 million in it. You might die. So it's a game of chance in the end, evidently, in that universe.
No, it's a game of are you pure enough? I submit to you, Dan, that it doesn't matter which cup Indiana Jones chooses, because it is the purity of his heart that actually is
renders it. Yes, renders the transubstantiation of the cup into the body and the blood of Jesus.
Boom. I don't see how I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. Well, maybe he was worthy to lift the hammer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Did the Red Hulk ever lift Thor's hammer? And I guess he was.
Now we're crossing the streams. We're crossing the streams.
And you can't cross streams. It's just don't cross the streams.
All right, friends. Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you would like to become a part of making this show happen, please consider becoming one of our patrons over on patreon.com/dataoverdogma, where you can have the chance to not only help us go, but you can get early access to an ad-free version of every episode, as well as potentially get the after party, which is bonus content we do every single week for your listening pleasure. And we really appreciate our donors so much. They're the wind beneath our wings. They're the cup that holds our healing water. Thanks so much to Roger Gowdy for editing the show, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye, everybody.